Okay, so I recently watched Wolfie's video on Dragonite's competitive career, but he somehow managed to stretch 4 minutes of actual content into 33 minutes of pure fluff, and it pisses me off. Alright, so Dragonite's competitive career began kinda weak when the first official tournaments got hosted by Nintendo back in 2009, with Pokémon Platinum being the most recent game. The big problem for Dragonite at that time was pretty much solely the existence of Salamence. For a Pokémon to see any competitive success, it needs to be the best at fulfilling some role or niche that no other Pokémon can do, and Salamence is just a strictly better version of Dragonite. They share the same typing, so the same weaknesses, and they both have the stat distribution of a physical attacker with decent bulk and usable special attack. However, Salamence has access to Intimidate, one of the best abilities in VGC, whereas D-Knight only had Inner Focus, and it is also faster than D-Knight by quite a lot, which means it can actually get a meaningful hit off before getting KO'd itself by an X-Force super effective Ice-type move. So if you wanted a physically attacking dragon on your team back then, you'd always pick Salamence because it was Dragonite but better. In Generation 5, Dragonite did get access to the ability Multiscale, which is superior to Inner Focus, but Salamence still outclassed it because of the exact same reasons as before. To add insult to injury, Latios was virtually everywhere at that time, spamming its powerful Dracometeor to great effect. Many teams responded by having multiple mons that are equipped to slay dragons, so they don't get run over by Latios, making the environment even more hostile for good old D-Knight. So dragons not named Dragonite had been quite successful, which caused Nintendo to nerf them by introducing the Fairy type in Generation 6. However, all dragons, including those called Dragonite, suffered as a result. Also, the new generational gimmick of Mega Evolution buffed the competition, Salamence, Latios, Garchomp, you name it, while Dragonite didn't get anything. The mon was literally never used in tournaments. In Generation 7, not much changed for Dragonite. The Tapus, which are all part Fairy type, were everywhere, and even if you wanted to use a physically offensive dragon, picking Salamence was still always the better option. The only time Dragonite saw any tournament play back then was when people picked it out of pity. Yes, they willingly handicapped themselves just because they had nostalgic feelings for Dragonite or whatever. The mon was complete and utter garbage. Generation 8 buffed Dragonite's original ability of Inner Focus, which is actually quite a big deal in doubles. Inner Focus now grants an immunity to Intimidate, so Dragonite can at least make use of its good attack stat, despite the fact that the intimidating Incineroar is basically everywhere. However, Gen 8's Dynamax is just power creep at its finest, and D-Knight was neither a good abuser of the mechanic nor a good supporter for Dynamax Pokémon. Dragonite was basically the kind of shitmon Blunder would sack in a feature video to safely bring in his actual win condition. But Generation 9 changed everything. Dynamax, gone. Z-moves, gone. Megas, long gone. The mere absence of these mechanics, which Dragonite could never really take advantage of, was already big. But even bigger was terrestrialization for Dragonite. Dragonite learns Extreme Speed, Salamence doesn't. Dragonite also is immune to Intimidate, Salamence isn't. And now Dragonite can hit the enemy with Stab Extreme Speed thanks to Terra Normal, dealing big damage while patching its slow speed stat with Extreme Speed's priority. A second way of patching D-Knight's speed was the new item Loaded Dice and the multi-hit move Scale Shot. So now, after all this time, Dragonite can finally do things that Salamence can't, so there is an actual reason to use it. And use it people did. Dragonite wasn't a one-dimensional mon either. Inner Focus plus Terra Normal Extreme Speed turns it into a high-damage threat, but Terra Steel or Terra Fairy, for example, are also amazing options. A strong defensive typing such as Fairy or Steel, in combination with the defensive ability Multiscale, make Dragonite incredibly difficult to take down. This is useful due to D-Knight's deep support move pool featuring Tailwind, Haze and Encore, just to name a few. Again, a niche that Salamence cannot fill. Dragonite's versatility led to multiple tournament victories, proving it was not a temporary success, but that D-Knight is one of the defining Pokémon of Generation 9.